Hi guys, this is Fernando doing another video for the Modern Survivalist. In this case I'm going to be reviewing the Cold Steel Voyager clip point large knife. There's also a medium and extra large model. The large knife, which is the one you see here, has a 4-inch blade. This is AUS 8A steel, Japanese steel, correctly heat treated by the people of Cold Steel. One of the things that I like the most about this knife is the wonderful handle made by Cold Steel. It used to be one of the weak points in Cold Steel knives. They were nice and had a nice flat profile, not that different from this one, maybe just a little bit thinner, but man, this handle you see here is such an improvement from the old Cold Steel knives, and compared to basically any other knife you see out there, it feels great in the hand. Your fingers dig in where they're supposed to, and most of all, you have a nice groove for your index finger here. You see how you wrap it properly. You have a good strong grip on it, you know, a hammer fist grip on it, very strong. This is very important for a knife, especially for a knife that may end up being used for self-defense purposes. I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to both have a good grip on it and have a bit of a finger stop like the one you see here, thanks to this depression, which is stopping your hand from going forward and catching yourself. For people that just talk about these things, sometimes it's a matter that gets ignored. Now, if you take classes on fighting with knives, there's two things that you see right away. The first one is that knives fall off people's hands surprisingly often. If you grab a practice knife, a rubber knife or a stick knife, and start sparring a bit with someone, you will soon see that, whoa, someone dropped his knife. You didn't expect that to happen. You thought it was going to be working out the way you've always expected it. And until you actually do it, you see these things. The second one is that your hand slips forward if there's not a proper guard here, right? And that's usually a very common problem in pocket knives and folding knives because of how they are designed, mostly to ride in a pocket. Most of them do not have a good cross piece, a guard over here, a stop for your finger. This is probably the best solution I've seen in a folding knife. Indeed, yes, it is, because it stops your hand from going forward, even if stabbing against something that's not giving. With a good strong grip, your hand will not be going forward and catching yourself. At 4 inches, it is a good compromise between size of a functional blade and something that it's small enough to ride easily in a pocket. You should have no problem at all having this pocket all day long in your pocket, and having this pocket knife with you all day long. It really shouldn't be a problem. If you have a problem having this in your pocket, I think you don't have many other things to worry through your day, because it really is something that just disappears. I don't know. I wouldn't go for something smaller than 4 inches for a carry knife, especially if I have a choice in that matter. Alright? I would have liked maybe, especially if it's for daily carry, 4.5, maybe a 5-inch blade, just a tad more than the 4-inch blade here. Still, it is a good general purpose size. It is full flat ground, as you see here. And that's not my favorite grin. I prefer the saber grin, which gives me more steel in the cross section, because either way I can sharpen both knives to be razor sharp, and I prefer the sturdiness provided by the saber grind. It is simpler to have just one step for grinding and for finishing, and for polishing as well, for, you know, that final finish of the blade. Having 2 steps is just one more process in the manufacturing of the knife. So I understand that it's a bit simpler to just do one and one on each side, and it does make for a nice sharp blade. But again, the saber grind is more resistant. And another thing that happens, especially if you study incidents where people got stabbed is that knives do break. Surprisingly enough, knives do break. There was this incident that I remember clearly just before coming here in Argentina, that during a murder case, the attacker used a Tramontina knife, one of those ordinary steak knives, kitchen knives that you find in any household. He stabbed this lady, he broke the knife, and then went to get another one and finished the job with the second knife. So, how likely is it, given that it is a very sturdy blade, a very sturdy knife manufactured by one of the top knife makers on the planet? Not very likely, but you know, why not have the extra sturdiness if you can? It has internal liners made of aluminum, which is great. You can also disassemble this knife fully. It has brass washers on the inside, which makes for a nice fast opening. There's many things in this knife that have been clearly improved. There's some other things that I wish they have done differently. The stone wash finish, I don't like it that much. I prefer that mirror finish, which is easier to keep clean. Whenever you have a mirror finish, it's much easier to keep it clean, and you know, if you're cutting food or if you're doing work with it and dirt and fat or whatever it is you're cutting, it gets sticking to your blade. Something that is mirror polish, it's much easier to keep clean. With this sort of stone wash finish, what you want to do is put a very thin layer of some lubricant or oil, because that's actually a function that the stone wash finish is supposed to be performing. The stone wash finish is not going to be stopping rust on itself, but it provides a ground for that oil or lubricant to attach to, and that's what actually protects your blade from rusting. It used to be that cold steel did not have knives that could be disassembled. Here you see you have these hex screws that allow you to disassemble this knife fully. That is indeed an improvement. The clip is a clip that I like. It's small, it's not those huge clips that go all the way through here. You don't really need that, so that's a good job by Cold Steel. You have also both sides to choose from. I would have liked to have also tip up and tip down options as well, which could have been done here. It wouldn't be that hard to have, you know, design into it. So that's something that could have been done better as well. Also, if you see here the texturing, this cross texturing that the knife has, which is very good, gives you a good grip on the blade as mentioned before, but it's also continued below the clip. Now if you carry this knife often, it's going to be ripping your jeans or the fabric of your pants rather quickly. Again, something that could have been improved on. Now, in spite of all this, this is probably one of the best knives out there for the money, and even for twice the amount of money this knife costs, I think it's going for $50, give or take $50. Even for $100, you'll be hard pressed finding a knife that has this well-balanced set of characteristics. A good blade shape, which even though it's full flat ground, which isn't my first option, it's wide enough, so that kind of compensates for the less amount of area you have in the cross section. Makes you know, similarly to a machete. Machetes are very thin, but because they are wide, you still have a good geometry for rough use. So while not as good as a saber grind, you still have a nice section here. The general shape is also a typical Bowie clip point shape, a classic Bowie shape. Very functional, very useful. You have a good belly here. If you notice, there's a slight angle between the axis of the handle and the axis of the blade itself. That gives you see that? It's like a bit of a counter curve to the blade, which I really like. That's, if people that have been following me for a while know, I like the Cold Steel Vaquero because it has that S counter curved shape. Well, you have somewhat of a similar result thanks to this slight angle you see here. It's gonna be catching when slashing, it's gonna be catching properly and with a nice razor sharp edge as the one you can put into a cold steel. It's gonna be very effective if you ever have to use this knife for self-defense. It's also gonna be stabbing well because of thanks to that clip point that you see here. Now again, besides that, for a general purpose knife, this is a great knife. You also have the Triad lock system, properly made by Cold Steel. It's been designed by themselves, it's trademarked by them, I think it's patented by them. The Triad lock, it's sturdier than the typical lock you will find in other knives. It's one of the toughest locks out there. So lots of good things going for this knife. As a general purpose trail knife, for example, if you're going to be going camping, which I've took this knife a couple of times already to some trips when I went camping, and I had other knives with me. I didn't use this much, but if I had to, this knife would have done its job. It's good for cutting a bit of wood to start a fire, sturdy enough for that. You have that nice tip in case you have to drill a hole for doing some woodcraft stuff. I mean, man, for a 4-inch blade, if you look at some of the bushcraft knives out there, some of them are even 3-inch long, 4-inch little blades. Some don't even have a proper finger guard. You could do much worse. Even with a fixed blade, you could do much worse than with the Cold Steel. Great knife overall. I really do recommend it. 4-inch at the very least. I wouldn't go for the medium size, which in my opinion is just too small. Sometimes some people like small knives. I don't. I think that in the knife world, more is better. So I would go for the large, which is this one, or the extra large Cold Steel Voyager. Guys, that's gonna be all for now. I hope you enjoyed this little review of the Cold Steel Voyager, the new model. Finally, again, good steel, excellent blade geometry overall, and outstanding grip for a folding knife. Folks, that's gonna be all. See you on our next video. Take care.